Welcome to First Take exclusively on YouTube. I am Shae Cornette. We have Vince Goodwill with us and Stephen A. Smith. We're going to get right into it. And we're going into the NBA and their awards because the NBA enters the final third of their season now. Several star players are nearing ineligibility for this year's major awards. The list includes three-time MVP Nikola Jokic, last year's winner, this year's favorite, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And the league requires players to appear in at least 65 games in the regular season. They're the number of games they cannot miss, with the Joker only having 1, SGA only having 6. Does this 65-game rule diminish the MVP award in the association? Vince, what do you think?
Absolutely not, because attendance is required. And when you look at the history of the award, the last player to play some level of small games was Bill Walton in 1978. I believe he played 58 games. And I think that was just because the players were tired of giving it to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That was before the media started voting in 1980. Since then, in that 45-year span, the players have always played 75, 76, 77 games. There's never really been a precedent of a player who played fewer than 85, 90%. When you look at all the years that Michael Jordan won the award, 82 games, 82 games. Maybe he was suspended one year for choking Reggie Miller or something like that. 82 games. That's just what the award is. It's a shame that we're talking about the award and not the attitudes and not everything else that's led to players missing games. And not just talking about players, but the medical staff, the information, and everything else that says load management works. It clearly doesn't work because they put the rule in place.
S.A., does it diminish it?
Well, it diminishes it to some degree. I disagree with Vinny there. It diminishes it to some degree. It's just justifiable as to why it happened because of what he said. You know, the players put themselves in this position. And as a result, you know what, the NBA had to come up with something to incentivize dudes to participate and be available a bit more. Once again, load management having a detrimental effect on the game because this is the kind of stuff that's been transpiring. But the reason why I say it diminishes it to some degree, if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo, clearly you are injured. Clearly you are not healthy. You understand? So if you end up playing only 55 games as opposed to 65 games, but in those 55 games, you average 30 and 15, and the teams it wins enough games to make the playoffs, and you're formidable, but you missed 27 games due to an injury, it's unfortunate that could cost you. We understand, and you have to lean on the voters to make that decision. But it's been taken out of the hands of the voters because automatically you're disqualified because the amount of games you missed, as opposed to the voters saying, well, you were great in those 55 games, but you missed 27. And because of that, we're making the choice to say, we're not going to give it to you because we're going to give it to a cat who did the same thing that you did, but he played 72 games. That kind of stuff has been taken out of the hands of the voters. And that's what serves to diminish it. If the voters could make that decision on their own, I think that, you know, Vinny's point would be, more significant. But the fact that that's been taken out of the hands of the voters is why I say, you know what, it's kind of diminished it.
The problem is, I think we can agree that Nikola Jokic is still the best player in the game. And because of the injury that he had, he can only miss one more game.
Right.
If he doesn't miss a game, if the Nuggets still wind up in the third seed, do you have a problem with your vote, Stephen A., voting for him? Or would you rather he miss 2 games? Well, let me ask you this. If he misses 2 games, thus making him ineligible, will you feel like you are voting for a fraudulent MVP because you couldn't vote for the Joker?
Well, I would feel, again, that it's diminished because I couldn't vote for him as opposed to me making the choice that you missed 17, 18 games, so I'm not giving it to you. I'm saying that decision, it would be ideal if it were left in the hands of the voters. But the players forced the league's hand, because the league is prioritizing addressing load management and players' willingness to miss games. That is what caused all of this. This is not about the media. It's about the fact that the players were not available. So the league didn't want them rewarded for missing games. And they took that out of the voters' hands. That's why it's somewhat diminished. It's not the league's fault. It's not the media's fault. It's on the players who engaged in such flagrant dereliction of duty that the league felt compelled to do something to address the matter. And that's why it's diminished.
What the problem is now is Nikola Jokic didn't do any of the sort. He didn't load manage or anything.
Right.
He's truly injured, and now we're in a situation where he can only miss one more game or he becomes ineligible for this MVP award. Okay, let's move on. We go to the East now. The Cavs are a confusing bunch, looking to solidify their standing in the Eastern Conference. They had a 7-game win streak, took a tough loss to the Thunder without SGA. So now who are the Cavs really? Are they a contender or are they a pretender? They had been unbeaten since acquiring James Harden, obviously, to that loss to the Thunder without SGA. What do you think, Stephen A? Do you think they are a contender or a pretender, the Cavs?
I'm going to say they're a contender because they're prolific offensively. And I think that James Harden could be a superstar on any given night, and Donovan Mitchell is one on most nights. And so because that's the reality, when you've got Jared Allen and Evan Mobley on your front line, I think you have the capability in any series to take anybody out in the Eastern Conference, particularly with that backcourt. That's how I view them. That doesn't mean they're going to do it, but we can't look at them as a pretender. I don't think we can go as far as to do that with how prolific they have the potential to be.
I have a problem calling them a contender because I look at James Harden and I say he has something to prove. Whenever you have really needed to depend on James Harden to win you a game, to win you a series, he has come up short. Now, he has had some playoff moments. He had a couple 40-point games in that series against Boston a couple of years ago, but then he disappeared in Game 7. And then when I look at Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, and I love Evan Mobley, I look at playoff basketball being physical basketball, and the bigs are going to be allowed to throw you around. And them two dudes are skinny. I'm fascinated to see if they go against Detroit and Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren, what those dudes do to them. How can you handle it? It remains to be seen to me. Now, if you say to me, Shae and Stephen A., the East is so topsy-turvy, anybody can be a contender, I'll rock with you on that. But just looking at what this roster is, short of Donovan Mitchell as a playoff performer, I got questions about every other single entity on that roster, including coaching.
So instead of pretender, they have something to prove. I would say not only James Harden, the entire Cavs roster has something to prove.
It's a perfect marriage.
Right, considering what they did last year in the postseason. Thank you for watching First Take exclusively on YouTube. Join us every weekday on ESPN at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you tomorrow.
NBA